Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Tom Abraham James. He is the MD at Conoco. They're an ASX listed explorer with assets in Greenland and also Australia. So we talked through the two core projects, Ryberg and Mestersvig. Thereafter, gold, copper, cobalt, zinc, and lead. And they also have nickel and cobalt project in Australia. So we talked through how they hope to advance those projects, a fairly early stage project. So the business plan is critical at this stage. They've got money in the bank to be able to deliver a drill program for this season. Let's see where they get to. If you want our thoughts and opinions on the company, the CEO, the conversation, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. There's commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of commodities and companies. And there are training courses on there to help you with the diligence process. There are summaries of other interviews that we've done just to save you some time because you've told us you're busy. And if you want to join a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly, safe environment, free from trolling, judgment, and abuse, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. I hope you think that sounds nice because it is. And we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like, we appreciate it. If you have comments below, get back to everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. Tom, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning, Matt. Very well, thank you. Greetings from Reykjavik in Iceland.
Oh, very nice. Reykjavik in Iceland. My kids have been. I haven't been. Is it a nice place?
It's magnificent. It's been my home away from home now for over a decade. So I've been working in this part of the world since 2008. And it's one of the few COVID green countries in Europe. So it's a magnificent place to be in, and just across the ditch from Greenland as well.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. So tell me this. You don't sound like you're local, not even close.
No, I don't. My Icelandic leaves a lot to be wanted there. But I'm from England and educated in Australia. And then for the past 15 odd years, it's been jumping between Europe and Africa and back to Australia and South America. So living the life of an exploration geologist.
Oh, right. So I was about to say, what have you been doing? You've been bouncing around as an exploration geologist. Who have you worked with?
So started my career in South Africa. So for my thesis for university, I went across to the Bushveld complex. I was working on the PGEs there. Then afterwards, I started work with Rio Tinto at Argyle Diamonds. After about a year, I realized that the mining life was not for me, that I was a through and through explorationist. And then I started working for Platina Resources, which is ASX PGE exploration company. And that took me all over the world looking for the mandate of the company was to find platinum deposits outside of South Africa. And so I was very fortunate to explore everywhere. And after begging and pleading, they sent me to their project in Greenland in 2008. And that's when I started my love affair with Greenland.
Fantastic, we certainly have. Right, well, we better start off with that obligatory 1 minute overview of the company, and then I'll pick it up with some questions.
Okay, so Conoco Limited, we're a dedicated exploration company. We really have a geographical focus on the east coast of Greenland, but we also have a project in Australia, which is for nickel and cobalt. So for us, we started off on the east coast looking for magmatic sulfides. So our flagship project is the Ryberg project, which is copper, nickel, palladium, cobalt, gold. And then we've grown that portfolio since. So through exploration, we found a gold project, which is Sorticap, and then we acquired the Mestersvig lead zinc project to the north as well.
Okay, nice overview. Mestersvig, that's how we pronounce it. Good. That wasn't how I was going to pronounce it. Right. So let's start with what it is that you're trying to do there. I mean, you've got it's a relatively small story, 22 million Aussie. And I guess new to a lot of people as well. So what is it that you're trying to be, first of all?
We're trying to be the one that discovers the next big magmatic sulfide project. So once again, this is Ryberg. So we've got a first mover approach in this location in East Greenland. It's got 4,500 square kilometers. And what we're trying to identify is something large. So by large, I mean high tonnage, high grade. I mean, what everybody's really looking for, but in a location that hasn't seen any systematic exploration. The first explorers that were there, and roughly about the 1980s, they identified the mineralization, but they had about another 20 projects which they were looking at. And so it's really, I guess, neglected. And when I first went to Greenland in 2008 and walked across this particular location, I was blown away by the mineralization that's the surface. And it was extremely compelling, large globular sulfides staring at you. And so with that, I started up a company called Longland Resources. This is in 2017. So I guess the history of it is that I went there in 2008. We're working on a particular project called Skaregard, which is a palladium and gold resource. And I was very fortunate to be given a 150 kilometer radius around that project to find something new. And that's when I went into Ryberg and found the mineralization there. Then really dug into the geochemistry of it all, and then found some historic geophysics that had been done, some electromag. And it didn't look terribly compelling, but I didn't quite believe the data because you're seeing this mineralization at surface. So why does the geophysics tell us that nothing's there? So I got the data reinterpreted, and it turned out that the data had been incorrectly acquired, that it was effectively noise. And I was ecstatic at that point because then it brought that area back to life. So with the company I was working for at the time, they didn't wish to pursue that. They then started focusing on a different project, at which point I then found it was opportune to leave the company and then to go across and to start up my own company, Longland Resources. And that was acquired by Conoco last year in October. So I was very pleased with that. They saw the potential that I saw of that particular project. And we've since done some additional work in the form of geophysics, more geochemistry. And then this year we're going out and drilling it. And so it's very exciting. And the geological story is very compelling as well.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a second. So let's deal with probably one of the first questions you're always asked, which it's Greenland. People have, pictures of polar bears in their mind, and, the whole kind of green thematic, very conscious of it. So do you struggle to get people to actually pay attention to this story? Because we've interviewed about it, maybe a handful of people trying to mine in country, and they've, varying degrees of success. What are you seeing when you're working there?
I'm seeing that the number of companies that are exploring in Greenland has increased. You're starting to get some of the major players there as well. So the largest license holder in Greenland is now Anglo American. That's just recent. We've then got, we're now the third largest license holder in Greenland. So I'm very pleased with that. So you're seeing people go out and doing, instead of going to known projects, you're seeing now people going out with conceptual projects, taking out large license areas like we are. And so I think that Greenland's definitely undoubtedly got large resources there that have been discovered, but each one has come with its own challenges, I think it's fair to say. So either there's ice conditions that are to be dealt with, or being close by to communities. For us, with our focus on East Greenland, we've really looked to address that with the geographical positioning, because there is no population center where we are. The nearest people to us are actually abroad in Iceland. So we don't have that, social impact. And from my point of view, mining operations, they're typically in remote locations. They are away, and for good reason. So we've taken that into account. With our Ryberg project, also in terms of the environmental side of things, we're not in a national park. We're not in an area of environmental significance. So we don't have those issues. Our footprint for exploration is also very small. So for instance, this year for accommodation, we're using a vessel to come in and out. So we're not leaving any permanent footprint there. So all these things are being addressed, and then also looking at opportunities for, should everything go according to plan, energy. So how do we get a mining operation off the ground? There's being right next door to Iceland comes with significant advantages as well. We know that the large aluminium smelters are there. There's 3 due to their abundance of green energy, and perhaps that may play a role in the future as well.
But what about the infrastructure there in terms of roads and accessibility? I know you're used to working remotely, and maybe, as you say, you're very well looking here. You're very close to Iceland for sure, but you still need to, when you're on site, you're still going to need some basic things like rudimentary energy. If you're going to be starting drilling, I mean, what are you going to be using there?
So for that, we're going back to good old fuel. So Jet A1 we use. It's Arctic diesel. So we bring in our aviation fuel for the helicopters. We can use that for them for the drill rigs. Everything's heli-portable. But another emphasis that we've had is to reduce our reliance on helicopters also. So with that, we've identified that this year we can use ATVs to get to site as well, and also skid-mounted or tracked drill rigs. So we have those going in this year. So the hope is that our reliance on helicopters will be greatly reduced and therefore reduce the drilling cost as well. Otherwise, we've got an abundance of fresh water where we are. There's plenty of aggregate material. There's an airstrip that's there as well, so you've got quite a large flat area. We've got deep water fjords that are protected. So you've got the key ingredients, but as far as existing infrastructure is, that does not exist. Even to the point that with data for doing geological research, there is no regional geophysics where we are. And it comes with its own difficulties, but also created the opportunity. If all that data was pre-existing, then we may have been beaten by somebody else to get to this location. So we're putting a lot of investment in to provide, regional data sets this year. It'll be the first time that geophysics has ever been flown. So there's pros and cons of being remote.
Yeah, there is. And if I look at some of the Canadian companies we've interviewed, perhaps, much further to the north, and people worry about the eventual cost of, mining operations there. And that's a part of the consideration for whether or not they invest. So you talked about looking to Greenland, to some of these aluminium smelters and some of the solutions there. But so what sorts of things are you thinking about or imagining?
I'm imagining with our proximity and the increased collaboration between Iceland and Greenland, that quite potentially we'd be looking at doing minimal infrastructure in Greenland itself and then doing the processing in Iceland. That's one option that could be explored. Then also for workforce as well. So obviously we'd be looking to employ Greenlanders, but then also get the Icelanders involved as well. So obviously a highly skilled workforce. And also the workforce in Greenland is coming on leaps and bounds. They've got the mining school that's there now, which is very well funded. So I think that in terms of the personnel, we don't need to look further afield than where we are at the moment. Definitely.
And what about seasonality? How does that impact your ability to do work now and moving forward when you get into development, when companies, try to get into production? Will that affect things greatly, costs or ability to actually do any work?
The limiting factor now is this year we're embarking on a larger field season, and so the limiting factor is energy, is bringing in the fuel. So we're looking at the window to bring in. So that starts in June. The reason we're doing it in June is that's when you can get in without a nice class vessel. You can get in with a standard vessel. So that will be coming in June. We can then work through to the end of September. So should the fuel be there already, and that's what we're going to be doing for next year, is we'll bring in excess fuel this year. So then we can start much earlier. So we'd be looking then at April. So leave the drill rigs on site, have the fuel there. We can then just fly in on the airstrip that I mentioned and then get straight down to work. So it's quite a long field season, April through to October. And then the reason that we don't go into the winter months is actually not because it's too cold or too much snow. It's really because of the daylight hours. That's the biggest limiting factor. So that's during the summertime with 24 hours daylight, we go like the blazes during that period of time and drill as much as possible. But then with a mining operation, then it's quite different. So then we'd be looking at 365 days a year operation. And it's not just because we believe it's possible, it's because we know it's possible. So our Mestersvik project up further to the north, which is 72 degrees north, that particular project used to be, it was East Greenland's only mining operation, and that operated for 11 months a year in the 1950s. Now, if they could do it then I think we'd probably add the extra month with the technology that we have now.
Fantastic. Okay. Look, and one final thing, just in terms of the jurisdiction component, there's an election coming up which may or may not hinder your ability to get permits and licenses in a timely fashion. So what's happening there at the moment? What do you know?
Yeah, there's an election on the 6th of April, and this was really precipitated by the rare earth element project in South Greenland, and with the associated difficulties with that project. And so with that one, the outcome of the election is not known, but I think that from the discussions I've had in Greenland and with other parties that operate there, is that it is unlikely that that will have an effect on other mineral exploration in the country. However, uranium down south in an agricultural area nearby to a town, I think it's not just Greenland that would have a problem with that. I think any country may possibly question that. So once again, for us, we're benefiting from our remoteness, that we wouldn't be impacting or have those issues, so to speak, and also we don't have a radioactive product.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. That's jurisdiction. Let's talk about this. This is a new frontier, high prospective. Mm-hmm. Some of the indicative grades that you were talking about in your presentation, very, very interesting indeed. So let's talk about where you're at with both projects and how you advance that. You're going to be doing some drilling. Where's the money coming from?
We've already got some money in the bank now. So we did a raise not long ago. So we've got, just shy of 4 million in the bank at the moment. So we've started signing contracts. We've got the drill contract away. A couple more will come through this week. So then we'll have all the key items in place. So with it, the main focus will be on the Ryberg project. That really is, it's the big one. It's got the most potential. And then with Mestersvig, actually, we've just increased this is Mestersvig being further to the north. With that one, we've just increased the license area. We started off with about 180 square kilometers. We're now at 1,800. So last year, we saw something there that was very much of interest. And that is vastly underexplored large intrusion. With that, there's known rare earth elements there as well. So the mineral xenotime's been recorded, a few other bits and pieces, highly prospective geology. And once again, no real work's been done apart from those surface samples. So I think it's fair to say that we'll have a look at that.
Okay, so you got some money in the bank. Can we talk about Ryberg? How do you, as an exploration geologist, or was the company leading the company, go about building out, usual CEO phrase, value for shareholders, and actually tell us why you're doing it that way, if you don't mind. So I'm really interested in the thinking.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this, if you forgive me, I'm going to delve into a little bit of geology now. But really, what it is, it's just a fascinating location. Is that if you look at, say, and a lot of people looking for magmatic sulfides then start to quote Norilsk or Sudbury or some of these famous big, large systems there. But for us, it's difficult to avoid talking about Norilsk because the geological setting is incredibly similar. So back in 2008, when I first went to that location, what we saw was these large sulfides at surface. We know that the grades of those are quite good. So we've reported 2.2% copper, 3.3 grams palladium. But it's also, these are not just the pure sulfide that is being diluted by the host rock, which is around them. So we've done some work on the tenors of the sulfides themselves. They're higher grade again than what we've reported. But we're looking for a large system. So if you could picture, so this area, it used to be, it's one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history. So the sheer amount of volcanic activity there, you're getting 9-kilometer vertical thick piles of basalt. So this is very much like the Siberian traps, the Deccan traps, one of these huge events in Earth's history. And it's a bit of a Goldilocks zone where we are. So I mentioned that 9-kilometer thick pile. Where Ryberg is, that pile's been eroded away. So you get to see what's underneath it. And so when you're walking through, it's a fascinating location because there's a sedimentary basin there. So there you are in Greenland. You see ice off in the distance. And then you look down and you can see all these almost tropical plants there, fossils that are in the rock. But then you've got all the plumbing systems that feed these basalts. So very large sill and dike complexes.
In English? So you got to do it in English. You're getting excited. A geologist might get excited. Why do investors get excited?
Why do investors? Because you've got the ingredients there. So the sedimentary basin's got your sulfur. So what happens is all this huge amount of magnetism goes through. It then you get an oil and water effect with the lava. So what happens then is that you start to get a pure sulfide liquid segregates, a sulfide saturation. And in that, you get all your metals there, your precious metals, your base metals. And it's in an immiscible liquid. And so then we've seen that at surface. And now what we're looking at is a concentration of this material at depth, so a large volume of it. And so this is why in the past, 2017, and then last year, we went out and did electromagnetics, which is a very standard procedure for exploring for this type of sulfide. And if you get a large pocket of sulfides there, fingers crossed, it then flashes up and you get a very nice anomaly. Now, we got that last year. Well, actually, we got it in 2017. We then followed up on it last year. It confirmed it with 2 different survey types. And what we're seeing there is what looks like a conduit, which is about 160 meters under the ground, a conduit which is flashing up with an electromagnetic anomaly. And on top of that, you're getting these large blobs of sulfide containing decent grade. So from an investor standpoint, it really is now, we go from a couple of rock chips at surface to then a drill hole going down for the first time. That will be in July this year. And should we hit what we think is there, then we could be onto something quite large. And that is 1% of our entire license area. We have 4,500 square kilometers. We're looking at a very small part. So that's why we're now looking to broaden with the geophysics, blanket the entire area, drill this area, and then expand from that. And so we're not looking at a small project. We're really looking at opening up potentially a province here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, always good to put it in the context that the kind of so what factor for investors, which is you talked at the beginning about looking for large scale projects, right? And, drilling is easily converted into something that people can do comps with, or, do comparisons with peers against. $4 million isn't a lot of cash, so you've got to spend that wisely, right? You've got to be really, really focused. So Mastersvig is something that you're going to be looking at, but you're not going to spend a lot of time and money on. And even Ryberg, it's a big land package. So what precisely do you think you're going to be able to talk to the market about? What are you hunting for? What's going to get them excited? Because you've got to get this balance between good, nice headlines, which people understand, and good geology. And how do you do that?
The way that we do that is really that where we'll be drilling initially, it's got the best chance of success. So from that particular location, we think that should we hit what we hope we will, then we'll expand upon that. We'll as quickly as possible be drilling that out to see if it's this year, quite possibly, see if we could. The dream would be to get a maiden resource in that location. And then put all our effort into that. The other thing is that we have a second drill target area, which is a little bit further to the north in the same package. This is the Salty Cap prospect. This is a discovery that was made by pure chance. Very happy with it, but this is a gold project as well. And so that's just a little bit further along. So we've got a significant IP anomaly there and grade at surface as well. So really the intention would be this year from an investor standpoint, if all goes well, 2 discoveries are well proven and made, and then we'll do our level best to then drill it out as much as possible so we can have a feel for what the size of the prize would be.
So what are you seeing in the marketplace at the moment? Because obviously there's a lot of gold stories out there. And there's good, This is a good story. I think you compare it to like the Greenstone Belt, so it's your 2-3 gram per ton type level. But gold's kind of come off a bit. Some of the other elements that you're talking about, nickel and the copper and the cobalt, they're gaining attention. So does that affect your decision-making as to how you progress with this project?
Yeah, it does. Look, for us, the focus is definitely on Ryberg. It's definitely on the magmatic sulfides, the copper and nickel, for sure. So, and with those as well, they come with precious metals as well. There's a whole basket there that would come with it. So the focus and the prize is that magmatic sulfide occurrence, most definitely.
Right, and let's talk about the rest of this year. Then you've got your $4 million is going to last you how long?
The $4 million will get us through this season. So should we hit something magnificent, then we may well be saying, okay, what else can we throw at it this year? That may come with obviously a requirement for additional cash, but that would be a very nice problem to have. So it will be based on success this year.
Right. Okay. And again, coming back to the earlier question of, what type of company are you? That you're an exploration company which feels comfortable moving into development. And you're also very comfortable with raising cash?
Yeah, look, we're comfortable with raising cash. We've got a good team for doing that, good track record. But with the development side of things, Who knows? I think that we are very good at doing exploration, but do we want to be the one to go into development? I'm not sure that that's what our investor base is there for. I think they're there for us to make a success and then move on. So we're explorers, we're not miners. So I think it's important that we're aware of our skill sets and stick with that. It's a small team of people, and I think us going and pretending to be a mining company is not the way forward. Is that we create value by making a discovery and then moving on to the next one, and the shareholders benefiting from that.
Okay, well, I think, I appreciate that, because people do need to know what they're kind of walking into, what they would be investing into, and I guess the leverage is there through the drill bit if you guys hit. How long do you envisage spending on this before you would want to have conversations with other groups about getting involved in whatever shape or form that may be?
We've received some interest from larger groups. We have not proceeded with any of those, only because at the moment, for a modest sum of cash, as you've identified, we can actually get to create a lot of value from that. So I'd be saying that there would be no discussions entertained, or at least certainly for until this season has been completed. After that, we can then assess should it all go as planned. We'll see, but no immediate plans for that.
Okay, so but at some point there's going to be some kind of earn-in type structures or JV type structures whilst you go and explore, well, I guess Masters Vig, or are you going to be trying to get a hold of more prospective land while you're there, or consolidate more property?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think we've consolidated everything that we wish to. I think that our land package now, it covers all the areas of interest. So I've got no concerns about having missed anything. So we do have a sizable land package, that's for sure. So we could, I mean, this year we'd be drilling, as I say, only 1% of the total license package. The rest of it remains open. So I think it would be folly to run off and do something before having adequately looked at the rest of the area before giving it away.
Interesting, very interesting. Well, look, Tom, I appreciate you coming and telling us that story. Lovely news story. Sounds like obviously you know the Greenland jurisdiction reasonably well. You know how to operate there. I'm intrigued to see what you can do this year. I mean, do come back on and let us know how you get on, certainly with the drilling component.
It's been a pleasure, Matt. Thanks very much for having me. And I think the key takeaway points here is that with Ryberg, East Greenland, is that first movers, frontier environment. We're going to be drilling this year. First time it's been drilled, and it's all about the copper, the nickel, the palladium. Then we've got other projects there as well. So we've got Masters Vig, so we've got the rare earth elements there. We've got the other base metals. We've got gold at Swarty Cap. And then I haven't even touched on our project in Australia, which is Mount Thirsty, cobalt and nickel. It's one of Australia's most advanced projects, and there it's with the price of cobalt at the moment going up, it creates all sorts of interesting options. So I think there's a lot of upside for investors, and not a one-trick pony.